The moment you go quiet, everything changes, not because silence is cruel and not because distance is a game, but because some people only hear your value when your voice is no longer there to explain it. When you stop chasing, stop fixing, stop reaching for someone who keeps stepping back, the whole energy shifts. They feel it. Even if they never say a word, they feel the space you leave behind, and that space starts talking to them in ways your love never could. This is not about revenge. It is not about teaching someone a lesson through pain. It is about what happens when your heart finally gets tired of begging for what should have been given freely. Stay with me, because this is where it gets deep. When you choose peace over pursuit, when you choose dignity over confusion, when you stop trying to force closeness from someone who fears it, you do more than walk away. You hold up a mirror, and for the first time, they are left alone with the reflection of their own patterns. That is when the silence becomes loud. That is when the absence becomes real. And that is when the person who kept avoiding the truth starts to feel the full weight of what they pushed away. Many people misunderstand emotional distance. They think if someone pulls away, it means they do not care. But often, the truth is more complicated than that. Some people pull away not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much and do not know how to hold it. Closeness scares them. Love feels risky. Connection feels like losing control. So they create distance before anyone can get too close. They detach first. They go cold. They become hard to read. And over time, this becomes a pattern so familiar that they stop noticing how much damage it creates. They expect the other person to keep trying. They expect messages, long talks, second chances, emotional explanations, and endless patience. Deep down, they count on being chased because that chase makes them feel safe. It keeps the power in their hands. It lets them stay guarded while still receiving love from a distance. But the second you stop feeding that pattern, everything begins to crack. When you no longer run after them, when you no longer try to prove your intentions, when you no longer beg to be understood, the pattern breaks. And broken patterns create panic. This is where their mind starts to move in circles. Why did you stop? Why are you calm? Why are you not reacting the way they expected? That loss of predictability unsettles them more than any argument ever could. Your silence becomes powerful because it is no longer filled with pain. It is filled with self-respect. That difference matters. If silence is used as punishment, people feel the game. But when silence comes from clarity, from emotional exhaustion, from a real decision to protect your peace, it carries a completely different energy. It is steady, it is clean, it is not asking for anything, and that is exactly why it hits so hard. They are used to emotional pressure. They know how to respond to tears, anger, confusion, and even chaos. But calm distance, that is different. Calm distance gives them no place to hide. It removes the drama they once used as proof that closeness was dangerous. It takes away the excuse, and now they are left with something they do not know how to fight: your peace. Keep listening, because this part matters. The moment your energy is no longer focused on fixing them, it returns to you. You start sleeping better, thinking clearer, standing straighter. Your attention is no longer trapped in their mixed signals. It comes back home. You begin to glow in a quiet way, not louder, not harder, just stronger. And that shift does not go unnoticed. People can feel when you stop abandoning yourself for someone else. They can feel when your love becomes grounded instead of desperate. And for the person who thought they had endless access to your care, that change feels like a door slowly closing. What truly shakes them is not only your absence, but the fact that you left without losing yourself. You did not explode. You did not keep knocking on a locked door. You did not spend your last energy trying to pull warmth from someone committed to distance. You felt what you felt, accepted the pain, and still chose peace. That kind of strength is rare. It is also unforgettable. Many people know how to love. Fewer know how to love deeply and still walk away when the love is not being honored. That is the part that stays in their mind, because now, for once, they are not the one controlling the pace. They are not the one deciding when to come close and when to disappear. You stepped out of the cycle on your own terms, and suddenly the control they depended on is gone. That creates a strange mixture inside them: curiosity, discomfort, regret, a quiet kind of panic they do not always have words for. They start replaying moments they once brushed past: the way you were patient, the way you stayed soft without being weak, the way you tried to understand them even when they gave you almost nothing to work with. At the time, they may have taken all of that for granted, but distance changes the view. What felt ordinary before starts to look rare once it is no longer there. When someone has built their whole emotional world around avoiding discomfort, your release of them creates a kind of emptiness they were not prepared for. They may have believed they wanted space. They may have thought freedom would feel like relief, but relief is not always what comes next. Sometimes what follows is silence so deep it begins to echo. No more reassuring messages, no more predictable care, no more emotional safety waiting in the background while they sort through their fears in private. What disappears is not just a person, it is a whole emotional environment, and once that environment is gone, they start noticing what it gave them. They notice the calm they felt around you, the comfort of your consistency, the warmth of being understood without pressure. These things rarely look dramatic while they are present, but once missing, they become impossible to ignore. And here is the truth most people do not talk about. Avoidance does not erase attachment. It delays it, it pushes it down, it keeps it hidden until the connection is gone and there is no more distraction left. Then the feelings rise, slowly at first, then all at once. They may try to bury it under work, other people, busyness, or numb routines. But what is real has a way of returning, especially in quiet moments, especially late at night, especially when there is nobody left to distract them from themselves. This is when reflection begins. Even if they resist it, they start remembering small details that once seemed easy to ignore. The tone of your voice when you tried to be understanding, the things you said that made them feel seen, the patience you carried when you could have easily walked away much sooner. Reflection is uncomfortable because it does not only bring back your value, it also brings back their choices. They begin to see how often they confused love with pressure, closeness with danger, and your effort with something that would always be available. That is a hard truth to sit with, and many will not admit it out loud. But silence has a way of forcing honesty in private. This is where they begin to feel the weight of the connection they tried to control, because connection was never the real problem. The real problem was what connection exposed inside them. Fear, vulnerability, need, unhealed pain, the possibility of being known. And when you are gone, all of that still remains. In fact, it becomes louder. The more they try to forget you, the more certain memories return, not just because they miss attention, but because they miss the emotional steadiness you brought. That kind of steadiness is rare. It cannot be replaced by chemistry alone, by attraction alone, or by temporary excitement. It lives deeper than that. And once someone has felt it, even briefly, every shallow connection, after it starts to feel incomplete. There is something especially powerful about a person who knows their worth and does not argue for it. That kind of presence changes the whole dynamic. When your boundaries become clear, when your behavior says, "I care, but I will not keep abandoning myself," it leaves a mark, especially on someone who is used to people bending, waiting, and overgiving. Boundaries are not walls. They are signs of emotional maturity. They show that your heart is open, but your peace is protected. And that message is stronger than endless words. Some people only begin to respect what they can no longer casually access, not because they are evil, but because comfort made them careless. Your self-respect interrupts that carelessness. It forces a new view. Suddenly, your love is no longer something they can assume will be there after every cold moment, every withdrawal, every confusing return. Now it has weight. Now it has value. Now it feels like something that could truly be lost. And this is where their internal world begins to shift again. They may not speak, they may not come forward in some dramatic way, but inside they start comparing your calm to the chaos they find elsewhere, comparing your grounded energy to the unstable rhythms they are used to, comparing the quiet respect you carried to the emotional noise of connections that ask for less truth but offer less peace. And the more they compare, the more unforgettable you become. People often think being unforgettable comes from beauty, charm, or intensity, but those things fade fast when there is no real depth under them. What stays in someone's mind is emotional truth. What stays is the memory of someone who loved with sincerity, stayed with grace, and left with dignity. That combination is rare. You become unforgettable when you choose yourself without becoming cruel, when you walk away without needing to destroy what you once felt, when your exit is not loud, but final. That creates a different kind of memory, one that lingers, one that keeps resurfacing in moments they did not expect. They may meet new people, they may try new experiences, they may even convince themselves they are completely fine, But then something small brings you back, a certain calm in a room, a line from a conversation, a silence that feels familiar, and suddenly they remember what it felt like to be with someone whose love did not suffocate, whose presence did not demand, whose care felt safe instead of chaotic. That memory can stay with a person for a very long time, especially if they know deep down that they were the one who mishandled it. Stay with me here, because this next truth cuts deep. Sometimes the person you walked away from does not fully understand your value while you are there. They only understand it in your absence. Not because your presence lacked meaning, but because familiarity made them blind. Distance removes that blindness. It sharpens what was once blurred. When you stop reacting, stop over-explaining, and stop trying to carry the relationship on your back, something else happens. Your peace starts exposing their chaos. This is one of the deepest shifts in the whole dynamic. They were used to tension. Tension gave them room to withdraw. Tension gave them a reason to stay guarded. Tension allowed them to tell themselves that closeness always leads to pressure. But when your response becomes calm and grounded, that story stops making sense. Now there is no fight to run from, no emotional storm to blame, no noise to hide behind. There is only your steadiness and their restlessness, and that contrast becomes impossible to ignore. A peaceful person can make an unhealed person feel very uncomfortable, not because peace is wrong, but because peace reveals what they have not yet healed. Your silence becomes that revelation. Your stillness becomes a mirror. They begin to notice how much inner noise they carry. The overthinking, the fear, the emotional running, the endless push and pull. What once felt normal inside them now feels loud next to your calm. That is why your peace can stay in their mind long after you are gone. Not because you were perfect, but because you represented something balanced, something real, something they could feel but could not maintain within themselves. And that is hard to forget, especially when every new connection feels louder, more chaotic, more demanding, and less safe than what they lost with you. Emotional independence has a mystery to it. When you no longer need constant validation, when you stop chasing clarity from someone committed to confusion, you become hard to read in the most powerful way. Not cold, not fake, just complete within yourself. And that completeness changes how people experience you. You are no longer trying to be chosen at any cost. You are choosing what aligns with your peace. That shift can unsettle someone who depended on your emotional availability without offering real consistency in return. They expected tears, they expected long messages, they expected one more try, but what they got was your silence, your self-focus, your grounded withdrawal. And because they cannot predict it, it stays with them. People think mystery comes from playing hard to get. Real mystery comes from inner wholeness. It comes from the person who does not collapse when love is not returned correctly. It comes from the one who feels deeply, but still knows when to step back. That kind of energy creates admiration and confusion at the same time. They start wondering how you did it, how you cared so much and still walked away, how you kept your softness without letting it turn into self-betrayal, how you found peace in a place where they expected you to break. And here is the part they may never say aloud. Your emotional independence shows them the gap between who they are and who they wish they could be. That silent comparison can stay inside them longer than any memory of conflict ever will. Over time, your absence becomes less like a moment and more like a lesson, a quiet lesson that keeps unfolding. They begin to understand that real connection is not something you can keep on a shelf while you decide whether you are ready. It is living. It needs care, it needs effort, it needs emotional honesty. And when those things are missing, the connection does not always explode. Sometimes it simply fades. Sometimes it leaves in silence. Sometimes it walks away with dignity and never begs to be brought back. That is the kind of ending that can haunt a person because there is no dramatic scene to blame. There is only truth. The truth that someone loved them sincerely and still chose not to remain where love felt uncertain. The truth that half love eventually loses to self-respect. The truth that a calm goodbye can cut deeper than a loud one. This is why some people start feeling attachment only after they are left alone with their own choices. In your presence, they could avoid themselves. In your absence, they cannot. The feelings they push down during the connection start rising later, and they rise in strange moments. While driving, while lying awake, while talking to someone new who does not carry your steadiness. while feeling a kind of emptiness they cannot explain. That emptiness is often not about missing attention. It is about missing emotional truth, missing the safety of something real, missing the peace of being cared for by someone who did not need to control them to love them. And while all of this may be happening inside them, something important is also happening inside you. You are changing. You are no longer living in reaction to their distance. You are no longer checking every silence for hidden meaning. You are no longer shrinking yourself to make someone more comfortable with your love. You begin to remember who you were before confusion became your routine. This is the part that matters most, because the real victory was never making them regret losing you. The real victory was finding yourself again, reclaiming your time, reclaiming your nervous system, reclaiming your joy, reclaiming the part of you that became too focused on understanding someone who was unwilling to understand themselves. That return to self changes everything. It changes your energy, your standards, your pace, the way you speak, the way you love, the way you leave. And yes, that change can make you unforgettable to them. But more importantly, it makes you undeniable to yourself. It teaches you that love should not cost your stability. It teaches you that chemistry without consistency creates suffering. It teaches you that caring for someone is not the same as being meant to stay with them. And once you truly learn that, your whole life opens. Keep watching this truth closely, because once a person has tasted the peace that comes from no longer forcing what hurts them, they rarely go back to begging for crumbs in the name of love. There is also a deeper layer to this that many people miss. Sometimes your silence does not just make them miss you, it makes them face themselves. And facing themselves may be the most uncomfortable thing of all, because now they must confront the pattern, the pulling away, the emotional withholding, the fear disguised as independence, the closeness they wanted but sabotaged, the care they received but could not fully hold. That level of reflection can change a person, but only if they are willing to be honest. Some will be, some will not. Some will let your absence wake them up. Others will bury themselves even deeper in distraction and denial. That part is not yours to manage. And this is where your freedom grows even more. You stop needing the outcome. You stop needing them to suddenly understand, suddenly return, suddenly become what they could not be when it mattered. You release the fantasy and make peace with what was real. That release is powerful. It puts your energy back in your own hands. It lets you move forward without carrying their unfinished emotional work on your back. And ironically, that is often when they feel you most. Not when you were pleading, not when you were trying harder, but when you finally let go for real, because real release has a frequency. It says, I loved you, but I will not lose myself here. It says, I understand now, and I am done trying to force what should have flowed. It says, my peace matters too, and nothing unsettles an unhealthy dynamic more than someone who fully understands their own value. So if you are in that space right now, if you have stepped back, gone quiet, and chosen yourself, even though part of your heart still remembers what you hoped this could be, know this: your silence is not empty. It is full of truth. It is full of strength. It is full of every lesson pain forced you to learn. And even if they never say it, even if they never come forward with the words you once wanted, your absence has already spoken. It has told the story your over-explaining never could. It has shown that love without effort cannot survive on feeling alone. It has shown that someone can care deeply and still walk away with grace. It has shown that your peace is not weakness, your boundaries are not cruelty, and your self-respect is not something to negotiate. In the end, that is what stays. Not the arguments, not the confusion, not the temporary closeness followed by cold distance. What stays is the memory of the one who brought calm, offered sincerity, and refused to stay where their heart was handled carelessly. And that memory can follow a person for years, because real connection does not disappear just because someone ran from it. It waits in the silence, it returns in reflection, it grows louder in absence, and by the time they truly understand what they lost, you may already be far ahead, healed in ways they never expected, peaceful in ways they never learned, and free in ways they still do not fully understand. If that is where you are, keep going. Do not break your own healing just because someone finally starts feeling what you felt long ago. Let the silence finish what words could not. Let your peace keep teaching the lesson, and let your life become the proof that walking away was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of your return.